The first thing you need is going to be a vehicle. Now, if you do surveillance, this vehicle will need some level of tinting on the windows. I have a previous video about types of good surveillance vehicles and setups, so I will not go into great depth right now on that topic. Now, what would a surveillance investigator be without a good camera? This is the one I use, the Panasonic HCV 180. This little camera sports 50x optical zoom, has intelligent zoom up to 90x, great battery life, and quite dependable. I have had my Panasonic camera now for well over 5 years. Now, I will keep a running total of these things needed to start up a PI business so we can see what the total startup cost is once we are done. Next, we also need a good tripod. It does not have to be an expensive one and should be small enough to use as a monopod or in close quarters like inside your vehicle. This is the one I prefer. I also prefer to have black tripods and black cameras to help keep me hidden as much as possible inside my car. Too many flashy things inside the car can give away the fact that you are in there while conducting stationary surveillance. I also highly recommend a battery backup power station like this one. It is not absolutely necessary when starting up, but it does come in quite handy. I keep my camera plugged in at all times so it is charged, powered up, and ready to start recording at a moment's notice. I also use the power station to keep my cell phone, laptop, and other devices charged while I am out on a surveillance case. You will also need some level of a covert camera while out there on surveillance. I recommend the Lawmate iPhone 6-7 covert camera case. Yes, it is pricey, but it is by far one of my best covert cameras I have ever had. Now again, getting started, you might consider just using your cell phone, but doing this, I can guarantee you that you will not feel very covert while using a regular cell phone. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. Having something like the iPhone case camera lets you shoot the covert video much more covertly, and you can see what it is getting video of right on the screen. Another thing to consider having when you start up your surveillance business is a good dash cam or two. I recommend the Viofa Dual Dash Cam Kit. Again, not an absolute necessity, but having a dash cam on the front and the rear of your surveillance vehicle can help you get that money shot many times while conducting mobile surveillance. I like to carry some orange safety cones with me too, like these. They work great if you need a good guise and your vehicle fits in. These work wonders when doing rural surveillance and other similar jobs. But besides all of this, what do you need to be a surveillance investigator? I would love to hear from you. What else can you think of that a surveillance investigator needs to start up their business? Go down and let me know in the comments below. One thing you will need is a business entity in most situations. Now, you could probably start up a private investigations business without a business entity, but I highly recommend having one. I have discussed that topic as well in previous videos, so you may want to check out the How to Run a Private Investigators playlist on my channel. For our calculations here, we will assume an average cost of about $100 to start up a business. In Colorado, it costs $50 to start an LLC. I am sure the cost will vary from state to state, so check with your state's Secretary of State office for costs and requirements. I would recommend getting a phone number for your business that is not, repeat, not your regular cell phone or your home phone. Now, you could get a new cell phone dedicated for your business, or you might consider a virtual phone number. I use Ring Central for my virtual lines, but this may be overkill for a startup business. I have about 5 business lines that run through that. When I first started, I used a Google number. I think the cost was about $10 a month. The Google number rang on my cell phone and allowed me to have that separation from my main business line and my advertised phone number. Now, I do recommend a different cell phone for your business and another one for your personal life. So for our startup cost analysis, we will assume about $100 combined for both a cell phone and a Google phone. Remember though, we are now getting into recurring costs, so these costs will be monthly, not just one-time costs. A website is good for any private investigation business. You need to have one for advertising purposes, a place to send your clients so they can check out your services and your credentials, and so you have a professional email address. You can go on HostGator or GoDaddy or other sites and get good domain hosting and purchase a domain fairly inexpensively. You have to purchase your domain name once, then renew it annually, and you will need to have monthly hosting to keep the website live. The cost for this is a bit tricky as it will depend on a lot of factors such as who will design the website. If you can design it yourself, then great, you can save a lot of money. You might consider using a service like Fiverr and keep your costs to a minimum to find someone to make a startup page for you, or you may want to go to a local professional to design your website. I would recommend using a professional, but that can get expensive. Another option might be to contact your local university or college and see if they have a website design class and perhaps a place where you could solicit a student to create your page for you. This could be very cost effective and maybe even free. For our purposes of calculating startup costs for a surveillance investigator, we will use a good round number like $500. Now, keep in mind though, there will be some ongoing expenses for monthly web hosting and annual renewal fees, but realistically that should maybe be $10 to $15 a month for hosting and $20 to $30 a year for domain renewal depending on your host. Internet is a must for any business today, and being a PI is no different. I recommend having one of the top tiers that are available, but ensure you are getting good internet speeds with it. And remember, for us PIs, upload speed is more important than download speed. You will find yourself uploading tons of surveillance videos, photos, reports, and other documents. If your down speed is gigabit speed, but your upload speed is 1 megabit, well, it may take a long time to upload some of those large surveillance video files. For our study purposes, let's assume another $100 for internet. And remember, this is going to be an ongoing month-to-month cost. So for budgeting purposes, you will have to keep this in mind. I recommend having a good laptop or desktop computer system or both. I like having a laptop for when I am traveling and a good desktop for doing my video editing, report writing, email, and other day-to-day work. For our study today, I will assume $500 for a computer. Now, to get started, you do not need the latest, greatest, and best thing out there. Make sure you study up a bit, but you can usually find a good used or refurbished system that will get the job done and keep startup costs down. Now let's take a quick look at where we are so far. Not including a vehicle, which we will assume you have one already, we are at about $2,300 for startup expenses. Oh my goodness, that does seem like a lot, doesn't it? Now here is a quick secret for those of you that made it this far in my video. This list is full of things that would be good to have, but not necessary to have for a startup. In fact, when I started my PI business, I had the following things off this list. I had to have a business entity to start my business. My first client required it, and it really is a necessity from a personal asset protection standpoint. I also had to buy a good camera, which I found on eBay used, and I got myself a good used laptop computer. I needed internet to be able to receive my cases and to communicate with my client. Now, back then, I burned my video to DVD and mailed the DVD to my client. And I got one of those pay-as-you-go cell phones, so I had a separate phone number for my business. Yes, there are other considerations like licensing, bonding, and insurance depending on where you're at, so you will need to consider those costs as well. Some PI licenses can cost as much as $1,000 or more and require training classes to be taken, which will have a cost too. A bond is usually around $100 a year, and good insurance can be purchased for PIs in the $500 to $1,000 range annually. In the grand scheme of things, folks, you can get into the business relatively inexpensively still today if you keep things to a minimum and make a wish list for all those other things. Trust me, they may be dream devices today, but one day they will become more necessary to expand your PI business.